It's now time for What's Up Asheville, sponsored by the City of Asheville, with the host, Mr. Sam Parada, and here he is.
Good afternoon, Asheville. My name is Sam Parada, and I'm your host here at What's Up Asheville on WRES 100.7 FM. Now, today I don't have a topic for a specific project or surveys for you. Instead, I want to sit back a little and talk about something that everyone likes, which is trees. So today I have Keith Aitken. Aitken.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. He is the city's urban forester.
Correct.
With planning department. And yeah, he's gonna tell us everything he knows about trees, everything that he does. And you know, I feel like a lot of people don't even know that the city has an urban forester. So
correct. Yeah.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
So Keith Aitken, sort of brand new to the position. Started back in March after a long journey to get me here. It was started way back in 2018 by some citizen groups and some nonprofits, and I think they pushed council to open up the position, and took 3 years, and I think in 2021 it was finally approved, and here I am today.
Love it. And you used to work for Parks before this, so
I did, yeah. I started in Parks and Rec in 2015.
2015.
I was a program leader there, so I would come up with ideas for programs. Originally hired as the climbing wall coordinator. Of all things, which is, not necessarily has anything to do with trees, but, I do like to climb trees.
People love to climb trees,
That's right. So, and it's pretty much the same thing. You put on a harness and put a rope in the tree and you just climb the tree. I mean, it's that easy, right? But yeah, so was there for 7.5 years. Did a lot of really fun programs, as well as climbing, but also, all my programs were really geared around trees as well. So, slacklining in trees,
mm-hmm.
and, some tree education, getting kids up in trees to, eat the fruits out of trees and that sort of thing. So yeah, we had a good time with trees and that sort of thing. And so yeah, that was fun.
And now you are in the planning department. Not as often outdoors, but still very much involved with the forestry of the city.
Yeah, so pretty much I'm just working from home and just kind of working in an office environment, and kind of really setting the stage for the urban forest management plan, which that's probably my biggest priority right now.
Well, let's back up a second.
Yep.
Before we jump into your big projects and priorities, tell me what it is exactly that you do as the urban forester.
As the urban forester, like I said, I was hired, really, the first priority is the urban forest management plan, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Secondly, I was hired for enforcement of tree canopy preservation, which is something new. I also am the liaison for the Urban Forestry Commission. I do eventually once we get the plan done, do education and outreach into schools, neighborhoods, that sort of thing. But it's pretty much, urban forestry is really like a cornucopia of everything coming together.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be dealing with a lot of the other departments, and we'll be dealing with citizens, of course, and also nonprofits.
Okay.
But yeah,
so your position is not to be confused with the arborist.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought,
Yeah. It makes sense. Yeah. So the city arborist, he handles all the trees that are on public property.
Yeah.
And so those are all the right-of-way trees that might be along the streets in Asheville. Some of those trees, and then also all the parks.
Okay.
And then any other property that the city may own that's not a park or it's not on the right of way, he deals with all those trees. So.
But you deal with a more privately owned
Correct. Yeah.
trees?
So anything on private property, and that can go anywhere from, areas in our steep slope zones.
What is that?
Ooh, steep slopes. Do you really want to go there now?
Just give me the spark notes. Just
So
keep it
yeah,
short.
so steep slopes are the forested areas that you can see around Asheville that are sparsely populated. We have two zones in our steep slopes zones. One is steep slope A, which is and it's a percent slope, which is 15%, and then it's also an elevation trigger as well, which is at steep slopes A is 2220 in elevation.
Okay.
And it goes all the way up to 2349. So within that elevation, 15% slope, that's steep slope A. And steep slope B is anything 2350 and above.
And who owns that? I guess property or land?
Yeah, so those are all private property owners. They're usually private property owners. There's not really any commercial development or any kind of commercial enterprise up in those slopes. They're just those are all the heavily forested slopes that need trees to keep our slopes stable, and keep our watershed clean.
Okay.
Yep.
So your job is to ensure that if trees need to be removed, they're done properly, and also don't remove the trees that we need.
Yeah, correct. So especially in the steep slope zones, I also cover commercial development. Aquatic buffers as well, but you need in the steep slopes area. There's a permit process that folks have to go through to remove a tree.
And that goes through you.
It goes through me. Yeah. Well, currently it goes through the planners, and then it'll eventually go through me. But my primary focus right now is the plan.
What is that plan? Tell me all about it.
Well, the urban forest management plan is like I said, just it's going to be a massive document, and it's a document that's going to take trees in the future of Asheville, what we want it to look like. In 2018, we did an urban canopy study here in Asheville, and what that was there was a company, they did a flyover, they looked at all the trees within the city limits. And we came up, I believe it was with 48% canopy cover within the city.
So that means that almost half of the city of Asheville is covered in trees.
It is.
If seen from above.
It is, yeah. So
that's
if
cool.
seen from above, but the other end of that is that number has dropped steadily since
That's not very
2008.
cool.
So it's we're not going in the right direction. We're starting, and that. There's a lot of different factors to that. Development is one, but it's not the whole picture. There are different trees being cut down for utility purposes. Some trees just naturally die. We have a lot of insects in the area. We have a lot of disease in the area. We're not planting the right trees, and we're bringing in some of those diseases are brought in.
Yeah.
And insects are brought in, so we're dealing with just a whole host. But the idea of the plan is to bring everything together. Citizens' comments on what we really want the canopy to look like in the future. Because most people, when they come to Asheville, they think of trees. Now, people often ask, especially, because we're surrounded by national forests and national parks, and they're like, well, do we have enough trees in Asheville? My answer to that is no. And only because, we're in the decline right now. So we're actually taking more trees out than trees are being replanted. So, and big trees are actually what we need to remain climate resilient in the future.
Right.
Sequestering carbon and that sort of thing. And so, we need those trees to, take those pollutants out of the air so that we actually have better air to breathe here. We have, a better quality of life. I mean, there's tons of studies out there about, the easing effect of trees and how,
Oh, absolutely.
things are just different. And, Yeah, and it just, I think trees are, one of those things that everyone loves. Whether either cutting them down or planting them or just,
Even if you have allergies,
even if you have allergies, yeah. I mean, there's other things we can blame allergies on, but, but yeah. So just one of those things. I think, we need here in Asheville, we need to, if we're not going to be planting as much trees, we need to slow down the removal of trees.
Yep.
And then, look toward the future on what do we want that number to go up. Most cities across the country, 48%, 47% tree canopy cover.
Unthinkable.
It's unthinkable.
Too much.
That's a goal for a lot of cities, especially out west where you have a lot of fires in the desert Southwest. I mean, they have like 20% out there.
Wow.
So I mean, their goals are like 35% canopy cover. Where ours here, we're probably at one time, probably upwards around 60-70%.
Wow.
I would guesstimate.
So what is the proposed goal that you have in mind for this project, that you envision for the future?
I really, someone asked me that question the other day, and I don't really have a clear set of visions of what I want to do personally.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get more input from the citizens of Asheville.
Okay.
But
that's coming up in the,
That's coming up, yeah. So right now with the plan, we'll kind of get back to the plan here. Right now with the plan, we're in the charter phase of it. So that's an internal document of how that plan's going to look, what goals it meets for city council, equity goals, that sort of thing. And then, once we get that written, then we'll start hiring consultants.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things we'll do is we'll do a forced inventory of all of our public trees, so that we can start managing them over time to make sure that we always have a good, canopy of trees. They're actually, helping us, improve the air, the quality of environment, and just the way of life here.
And then, so do you have an estimated timeline on when the, I guess the planning of the project's gonna be worked on, or maybe even complete?
So, it really depends on how quickly we can get that inventory done.
Yeah.
Because the inventory is going to be done at the same time that we're actually doing the planning, doing the public input period, and that sort of thing. If you look at other cities that are doing planning process right now, Knoxville is a year into theirs, and I think it's a 2-year timeline.
Okay.
So I would think we're probably somewhere around there as well.
It is a difficult question to answer, and even a difficult question for me to ask. We were in communications, never promise if you can deliver.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, I hope that 2 years. I think we should probably be able to get out in 2 years, and it's really going to depend on that inventory and getting that inventory done and getting that settled and taking a hard look on what we have, because we really don't know what we have. I mean, we have a general idea.
Yeah.
But we don't know how many diseases are out there, how many insects are out there, and you have to put that all into the big picture, and that's what the plan is really about.
I mean, it seems to me like this project touches so many different other facets of, the city. Water, you said the climate justice, equity, and then on top of that, you're talking about insects, you're talking about like invasive species, I imagine.
Correct.
And I imagine there's also plant life that's invasive as well.
Yeah, so
and all of that needs to be taken into account.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we do have a pretty big invasive issue here in Asheville. Kudzu, bittersweet, what's that? The Bradford pear trees.
Pear trees?
The pear trees, yeah, the Bradford pear trees that are, just kind of taking over our forests. And, they were an experiment going wrong.
As it always is.
Yeah, so it's just like, they were supposed to be sterile, but they crossed with one of our native pear trees, and all of a sudden you have, we're back to,
so Jurassic Park, but
it's like trees. Jurassic Park, correct. Yeah, that's where we're at. And So, we have a lot of those invasive affecting, different areas of the forest, in our parks, but also, just development in general, just making sure that we have trees on our steep slopes to, not stop the storm water, but to filter the storm water so that it doesn't.
There's no landslides and
landslides,
stuff.
that's one of the biggest things. I actually have a symposium I'm going to tomorrow on landslides and fire and, stormwater and that sort of thing.
Yep. Little fun fact about me, back in Venezuela, we had a very, very nasty landslide. Or 1 year we had like the mountain that separates the capital from the sea. And the part that was facing the sea had no trees on it. It was all just barren. These big storms came, and the entire town was just gone immediately. So I never thought about that, and that the city actually works on stuff, to avoid that kind of situation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So thank you.
Yeah, and there's the trees. That's what trees do. They hold that soil in place, and they actually filter that water. Not just they slow the rain down. When the rain falls from the sky, hits the tree. Some of it flows down the stem. Some of it flows through the leaves, and it just slows it down before it hits the ground. Because if you don't have those trees there, boom, and then it starts breaking up the soil particles, and before you know it, it starts eroding, and then you end up with your landslide, which we've had around here, and we do have several slopes within the city limits that are landslide prone.
Okay, and is that are you looking at these slopes to perhaps replant or are they already trees on those spots?
There are already trees on those.
They're just more prone to landslides.
They're just more because they're steeper.
Okay.
And as we put homes and we kind of encroach into that forest environment with our urban environment, we are definitely putting more of a strain on in those areas as well.
So far you've told me a lot about everything, or I guess a little bit about a lot of different topics, and these are all things that I didn't know about before.
Sure.
So you mentioned before too, you're planning on doing an educational outreach program. Is that are these the topics you'll be teaching the public, or I assume contractors and property owners?
I think it'll be it'll be a little bit of both. It'll be myself. The idea going forward is to actually start hiring a staff. Once we get this plan written and we start looking at how we need to do enforcement and what kind of educational outreach we want to do, whether that's in schools, in neighborhoods, at libraries, that sort of thing. We'll be looking at different avenues to do that. Our partners within the city are nonprofit partners as well. But yeah, coming from Parks and Rec and doing education and outreach for so many years, it's certainly one of my biggest passions. And being able to throw forestry into that too is.
And I really appreciate that because the public just is not as aware of what we do in general, unless and I don't blame them because you have issues with your water.
Yeah.
You want to call the city, but there's so much too that we can offer in terms of educating on interesting topics.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest things right now is permitting. And permitting for tree removal. And so I find myself educating landowners more on that because, once they move into the area, if they're not familiar with our ordinances, which most people aren't,
Yep.
They're just moving into a house that's, 2,400 feet up in elevation, and, they think that it's their property. They can kind of do what they want with, and typically that's what they do. And it makes sense, but no one's actually telling them what they can and cannot do. So, getting that education component out there, probably even before we even start the initial plan is something that we really need to focus on right now.
Right. And a lot of the process is for safety, I imagine.
Yeah, so it's for safety. It's to make sure that we can keep that canopy intact, because old trees sequester more carbon than smaller trees.
Okay.
I was recently given a fact: a 30-inch oak sequesters 70% more carbon than 8-inch oak.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's quite a bit. So the more of those 30-inch trees that we lose, the less likelihood we're going to be able to sequester that carbon out of the air and that sort of thing.
Lower quality of air.
Yeah, lower quality of air. So I mean, if we have just a bunch of smaller trees, certainly the air quality would be a little bit stressed, even though it's a little stressed right now, just because of where we are, and we are east of some pretty big power plants in Tennessee and that sort of thing. That are still burning coal, and so our air quality has never been that stellar, I would say. I did some research years ago with a nonprofit looking at air quality and how it affects forests here in the western North Carolina area, and it was pretty eye-opening. It's something that leads into it doesn't necessarily, the air pollution doesn't kill the trees, but it opens up a vector for insects and disease and that sort of thing to come in.
And people.
People, yeah. We have a lot of people here, a lot of people driving cars, and
no, I meant it affects us too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to be breathing in smoky or nasty tasting smoky air.
Absolutely not. So, but yeah, so the further lower down in elevation, your probably air quality is a little bit better down there than it is at the higher elevations, just because of the way that air pollution kind of has like an elevation gradient that it follows and that sort of thing. So but at the same time, we're also closer to the cars, and that's why we need more trees to take in that carbon from the cars and that sort of thing. So
does the plan take into account houseplants?
Houseplants? It could. Why not? I mean, I guess you could plant trees in your house, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
Why not?
We had to take some down in my house, but they were like rooting up. So.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not helping.
No, it's all right. It's all right. No, we could do that.
I want to ask you about the Urban Forestry Commission. You mentioned that you liaison for them.
Yeah, so the Urban Forestry Commission, I believe they were the Urban Tree Commission for that, or I forget what their last name was, but I know them as the Urban Forestry Commission. So they're kind of, they are in place to actually, inform council of things that are maybe going on, issues and that sort of thing, and to take, public input and, just a way to, talk about issues that we're going here. They do have a lot of different committees that, I've actually kind of inserted myself into, whether I should or not. When I first came here, I just thought, anything urban forestry I should be in, and kind of just,
I think you have the right mentality.
I just end up showing up at the meetings, and so I want to be involved in everything I possibly can. So and certainly the folks on the Urban Forestry Commission are helped me get here and get this position going and that sort of thing. So
that's great.
I think they can only help, and they really do. I mean, they it's a good organization.
That's what, yeah. I mean, so it's funny because my only experience with themes related to trees are always on like separate spectrums. Like you have the people who, the public calls the tree huggers, who say, no, we don't want to get rid of the tree no matter what. But then you have the other end of people who are like, well, the tree's sick. It needs to go, and it sucks, but the city, as far as I know, the city has been making plans to replant any trees that are taken down.
Correct.
So I think that's a positive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's once again to go back to our permit process. One of our are things in the permit process. If you take a tree out, you have to put a tree back. Of a similar maturing species. So if you take out a red oak, you have to put another oak species back in. You just can't put like a red bud or something that's real small and looks real nice and has a flower. You have to put a similar species back in so that it can grow up and be mature and it'll provide benefits and that sort of thing rather than just an aesthetic.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, with the last few minutes we have in the show, what is the process of getting rid of sick trees? Because it happens. Trees don't live forever. Sometimes they do get sick. So how does that go into what you do, or is that more on the arborist?
Well, if once again, if it happens within the right of way, that's a city arborist that handles that. Because that is a city tree, so he is responsible for pruning those trees, maintaining those trees, making sure that they are at their best health, and also removing them when they do get sick. Because sometimes, it may look like a tree's living, but once it starts, dying back from the tips and, it'll sometimes there's a process called epicormic branching, where the branching will start, coming out from the main stem. They'll come out in clumps. And when that happens, you can tell that, the tree is under some kind of stressor.
And at the end of its life.
Yeah, it's near the end of its life, and although it may still have leaves, it's not necessarily doing the best and being as healthy as it can be.
And in that case, you have to make the difficult decision of we need to
correct.
Get rid of this
That's a hard decision to make. But he handles that, and certainly. Once again, I handle all private property type stuff, and if a tree is sick, like up on the steep slopes, you have to get an arborist involved. You have to do a permit, and then if we'll go out, look at the tree, and if it's in that position, then we'll go ahead and take it out. But
do you look at the tree that tree can't really talk to you or tell you things? So how do you tell that a tree needs to be taken out, especially trees with deep roots? Maybe there's something wrong with the roots. How can you tell?
Well, you can look at signs. So you can actually dig down and look at the roots. There's certain root diseases where roots will turn different colors. You can look for cavities that are in the tree, like hollow points in the tree. There are different cankers, that are disease, based on diseases. Our cherries have a lot of black knot, which is, essentially a mass that grows on the branch. And that's, so there's just signs that you can see from a tree, and then just that dieback, it's starting to just look not as healthy as it used to, and that sort of thing. But it doesn't always tell the story, so sometimes we have to, go to, tree imaging as well. So where we'll actually be able to get like an MRI of the tree.
That's cool.
And that will, that's pretty much tells us the big story. If there's ever any question, that's what we're gonna jump to.
Got it. And then, at least you have some physical evidence, and it's not just, we need to get rid of this tree because we feel like it.
Correct.
Or because we want to build something there.
Yeah, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and that's what that essentially that tree radar does for us.
Love it. Thank you. Well, I think we have reached the end of the show. I'm getting nuts over there. Well, thank you so much for coming. I know you've taught me a lot today that I didn't know.
Fantastic.
And I'm very looking forward to the, what do you call the big project, your
Urban Forest Master Plan.
The Urban Forest Master Plan.
Yep.
Looking forward to working with you on that one, because I know there's going to be a lot of work on that.
We're gonna have a lot of fun.
Public input and stuff.
No, we're gonna make it fun for sure.
And a greener Asheville.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. And that's all the time we have for today on WRES 100.7 FM. What's Up Asheville? Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next time. Take care of one another.
Thank you.
You've been listening to What's Up Asheville, sponsored by the City of Asheville in collaboration with WRES 100.7 FM. This program will re-air every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12:30. Thank you for listening.